Hey guys, tonight we head into the dense, whispering jungles of the ancient Maya world, a place where temples breathe, stones remember, and ceremonial chambers are less about sightseeing and more about surviving rebirth. And trust me, you probably won't survive this night. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where are you listening from, and what time is it for you. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing at the edge of a jungle clearing. The sun is going down, turning the sky that warm, honey mango hue that always seems too rich to be real. In the distance, just beyond the trees, something looms, massive, stepped and partially reclaimed by vines and moss. You already know what it is. You've seen photos. You read the travel pamphlets, listen to that one podcast about sacred geometry that felt more like someone whispering into a tin can, but none of that prepared you for the real thing. The Temple of Rebirth doesn't have an official name. Not anymore. Locals avoid it. Tourists don't get this far. It's not marked on the map unless you have that kind of map. The stone steps lead upward in precise right angles, geometrically perfect, but weathered like they've been sighed over for centuries. The jungle hushes the moment you step closer. Even the howler monkeys, those little banshee gremlins, go quiet. The air changes. It's not the temperature, it's the density. You're breathing history now. It smells like crushed leaves, mineral-soaked stone, and something sharp you can't identify. Not danger, exactly, but not safety either. You take a step toward the staircase. The ground beneath you crunches nothing unusual, just dried palm fronds, except when you lift your foot, the print doesn't look like yours, slightly wider, toes more squared off. You blink, it's gone. You look up at the temple's peak, barely visible through the tree canopy. It was once painted in vibrant red and blue, pigments that shimmered like wet feathers in the sunlight. Time and weather have stripped most of that away, but enough remains to tell you this was no random pile of rocks. It had purpose, orientation, intention. Historians believe Maya temples were more than places of worship. They were living symbols of cosmic balance. The Temple of Rebirth, as fringe researchers now call it, aligns perfectly with certain solar events and features an interior layout that mimics the Maya understanding of the universe, a layered cosmology of sky, earth, and the underworld. The stone under your fingertips is warm, not sun-warmed, body-warm, as if the temple is alive and waiting. You place your hand on the base of the first stair. A breeze curls around your ankles, and from deep within the temple, you hear a sound, low, rhythmic, like a heartbeat you're not supposed to hear. You step upward, one stair, then another. The howlers return, calling from a distance, but it no longer sounds like monkeys. It sounds like laughter, and the sky darkens. The sun slips beneath the tree line with the soft finality of a door closing behind you. Twilight in the jungle comes fast, like someone forgot to dim the lights gradually. 1 minute the canopy above is gold-dappled and gentle. The next it's a deep, emerald shadow shot through with shades of obsidian. The calls of night creatures begin tentative at first, then in waves. Frogs, insects, something that hisses, something else that hoots, but in a rhythm that feels uncomfortably intentional. You reach the base of the true stairway. This isn't the grand, open front you saw from the clearing. This is the real entrance, hidden along the side of the temple, where the trees press close and the air smells of stone and damp and time. A narrow lintel carved with cedars. Maya world trees arches above the opening. Their roots twist downward into the underworld. Their branches curl skyward. You duck your head and step through. Immediately, it feels like you've passed into another layer of reality. The stone corridor beyond is colder than the outside air, and much quieter. The sounds of the jungle don't follow you in. Even your footsteps are muffled, like the floor absorbs them softly, hungrily. A faint glow pulses ahead. Not firelight, not modern electricity. Something in between. Bioluminescent paint. Maybe, except that it flickers like breath. You move toward it. The hallway narrows, and the walls begin to change. At first they're plain limestone, pitted and damp. But then the carvings begin rows of cedar trees again, but now with human figures growing from them. Some upside down, some split in two, some emerging from the roots in fetal position. You run your fingers over the stone. The grooves are worn smooth, as if countless hands have done the same thing. The depictions are haunting, but not frightening. Not yet. You recognize a pattern: life, death, rebirth, over and over again, in loops of twisting vine and flesh. Then you notice something else. The floor beneath you is subtly tilting, downward, not steeply, but enough that your calves begin to protest, and your balance shifts just slightly with each step. The Maya believed that to reach the underworld Xibalba you had to descend, through caves, through narrow passages, through pain, even. This temple follows the same idea. Rebirth requires the descent first. You stop at a wide stone panel set into the wall. It's covered in glyphs, some readable, some worn away. But the central image is unmistakable. A doorway carved into a tree, with figures emerging from it blindfolded. You stare at it longer than you mean to, because behind you, something creaks. You turn. There's no one there. Of course there isn't. But when you turn back, the panel has changed. The blindfolded figures are gone. In their place, just the open door in the tree, and your own reflection, faintly mirrored in the stone. You keep walking. Scholars still argue whether these types of chambers were ceremonial or instructional. Some think they were for priests to train in symbolic death rituals. Others argue that entire communities participated in these night-long rites of passage, especially before the planting season or during solar eclipses. There's also the fringe theory that the Chiba carvings marked locations of spiritual pressure, places where the barrier between worlds was thin. You definitely feel something. You reach the end of the corridor and find the first true chamber, a stone threshold, low enough that you have to crouch. Beyond it darkness, thick, unmoving, and cold in that way that suggests depth. You hesitate, then duck through, and the air inside the chamber shifts around you like a wet cloth. You straighten slowly, spine brushing the low ceiling as you rise into the chamber. The darkness doesn't give way. Not right away. It holds you in place, thick as syrup, as if light here takes longer to arrive. Your eyes adjust gradually, revealing the soft shimmer of phosphorescent lichen clinging to the walls, tiny constellations clumped in deliberate spirals, and then, as your gaze moves upward, you see them. Eyes, not glowing, just there, carved deep into the walls, dozens of them. Some wide and round, some narrow and slanted, others half-lidded like they're halfway through blinking. Each pair stares in a slightly different direction. Yet no matter where you move, at least one seems aimed at you. You try not to think about it. You step forward. The floor is smoother here, polished and slightly concave. A basin of sorts, almost ceremonial. In the centre a small altar stone, square and low. Burn marks scatter across its surface in a spidery web of soot. Ash still clings to the corners. Something was burned here. Recently, you crouch beside it. There's a scent rising from the ash sweet, earthy, almost spicy, like copal resin. The Maya used it in nearly every sacred ceremony. Offerings to the gods, to the spirits, to the ancestors. But here, in this enclosed chamber, it feels like the smoke never fully left. You reach toward the stone, and as your hand hovers over the burn marks, you feel warmth, real warmth, something recently placed, something that's since vanished. You pull your hand back. The ceiling above you isn't flat, it's domed. The stonework creates a funnel shape, like an inverted bowl. Glyphs spiral outward from the centre, too faint to read, but the pattern is unmistakable, a rebirthing womb. This chamber was designed to be symbolic and functional. You're standing inside a metaphor, and the metaphor knows it. Then you notice the side wall. It isn't solid like the others. There's a slit, a narrow seam where the wall curves inward as if it could open. No handle, no hinges. But the seam continues to the floor and disappears into the stone beneath your feet. You step closer. The seam smells faintly of moisture. You press your ear against it. Nothing at first. Then a trickle, a drip, and then, unmistakably, a breath. Slow, rhythmic, from the other side. You step back. Scholars often point to these interior chambers as ritual rebirth zones, places where initiates symbolically died to their former selves before re-emerging during key ceremonies. The use of heat, darkness, and enclosed space mirrored both death rites and birthing practices. But there's little consensus on what actually happened in here. Most of the written records are long gone, or intentionally destroyed. You turn slowly and realize you're not alone. Something is crouched in the opposite corner, not moving, shrouded in shadow. Your mouth opens, but no sound comes out. The figure shifts slightly. The outline of a headdress, long, feathered, quetzal-plumed, rises behind it. The Maya often portrayed deities and underworld lords in ceremonial form, even during rites performed in small spaces like this. The figure lifts its head. Eyes meet yours, but they're not human, not entirely cat-like, reflective. Jaguar. You blink, and it's gone. But now, the scent in the room has changed. Heavier, muskier, like fur, like something that should be asleep isn't. You back toward the slit in the wall. The stone behind you shifts just slightly. A breeze curls around your ankle. The seam opens. A whisper of a doorway, now ajar. You turn. Inside a tunnel. Even darker than this room. Sloped downward and lined with more eyes. The tunnel breathes. Not like a gust. Not like a draft. This is rhythmic. Alive. A subtle inhale and exhale that moves across your skin like breath on the back of your neck. You stare into it, half expecting a flicker of torchlight, a shimmer of ceremonial paint, a polite sign that says turn back now, but no just more carved eyes on either side, some no bigger than seeds, others the size of open palms, all watching. You step inside. The seam behind you seals itself without a sound, and now you're committed. The incline is gradual but noticeable. You descend barefoot now. instinctively removing your shoes without even realizing it, as if the stone demanded it. It's smooth and cool underfoot, worn by countless others before you, or perhaps just worn by time. Your steps echo strangely, each footfall returning to you with a slightly altered tone. One high, one low, one flat, one stretched. You pause, try again. Same result. You clap once, the echo comes back twice. You stare ahead, eyes slowly adjusting to the new darkness. The tunnel isn't pitch black, there's a faint luminescence in the carvings now. Lines of ochre and jade pigment woven through the etchings, glowing just enough to outline the strange figures serpents looping through skulls, maize gods sprouting from open ribs, butterflies flying out of mouths. You pause at one panel. It shows a man, or is it you being eaten by a jaguar and simultaneously giving birth to the jaguar through his chest? It would be funny if it didn't feel so pointed. And then comes the smell. At first, it's hard to place. Musky, earthy, faintly sour, like wet limestone steeped in sap and old blood. You tell yourself it's just the damp, but deep down, you know it isn't. This smell isn't environmental, it's intentional. The Maya built these temples with purpose. Every scent, every echo, every slope mattered. These were not just places of ritual, they were instruments. Machines of a sort tuned to soul states rather than clocks. And you're inside one now. There's a curve ahead just enough to block your line of sight. You follow it, and then freeze. Because you smell yourself. Your own scent, faint but distinct. Not the sweat you're currently producing, but your own shirt, your bag, your soap, the smell of your modern life. But ahead, as if someone or something was carrying it, you whisper your name, softly, and the echo responds, not with your voice, but with someone almost mimicking it. Scholars still debate whether certain Maya temple chambers were acoustically tuned to imitate the voices of gods or ancestors. Some structures do produce mysterious echoes that change tone based on pitch or language. But this is different. This echo seems to want something. You keep moving, your steps now softer, like you're trying not to wake a sleeping animal. Around the bend, the tunnel widens into a small chamber. You step inside and stop. A low platform sits in the centre, surrounded by small stone bowls, incense, bits of jade, bone. You recognize a jawbone human, or very, very close. The bowls haven't been disturbed in centuries, judging by the dust, and yet the scent from earlier is stronger here. To your right, another carving. A ceiba tree again, its roots reaching down into a pool where figures float upside down, their eyes closed, mouths open. You realize this isn't just a descent, it's a womb, a symbolic return to the start, or maybe a midpoint. This chamber isn't death, it's gestation. You glance behind you. No doorway. Of course not. Ahead, another passage. This one narrower. Lower. Just wide enough to crawl. You sigh and drop to your knees. Because of course you're going in. Because you can't stop now. And because something in you remembers this place. Even if your mouth doesn't. The stone presses against your palms and knees with a steady insistence. Not painful, just real. The crawl space is tight. Too low for comfort. Too long to be a joke. The air thickens as you move forward, saturated with the breath of centuries. It's not just dust down here, it's history. And it smells faintly of resin, sweat, and something floral that feels wrong. Not modern wrong, symbolically wrong, like a perfume designed for the dead. You shuffle forward on elbows now. The stone walls graze your skin. You're inside a tube carved with more ceiba roots twisting and curling, some forming loops, others branching around glyphs. It takes a moment before you realize you're inside a stylized umbilical cord. This tunnel is not just narrow for the sake of discomfort, it's deliberate. A symbolic birth canal. You're not walking. You're being born again. Or so the temple would like you to believe. You breathe shallowly, head brushing the ceiling now and then. Each inhale comes slower, deeper, instinctively quieter. You begin to notice something about the tunnel's acoustics you no longer hear yourself. Your breathing doesn't echo. Your shuffling makes no sound. The temple is absorbing it all. And then, as if to drive the point home, the ceiling begins to rise. You crawl into a slightly larger space. Still not tall enough to stand, but high enough to kneel. The floor is damp here. Not wet, just slick with something smooth. You run your fingers through it. It smells like salt. You look down. The floor is etched with hundreds, maybe thousands of tiny, overlapping spirals, fingerprints. They're fingerprints, pressed into the stone, faint but intentional. You're not the first to crawl through this tunnel. You place your hand beside one. It matches, not perfectly, but close enough to feel like a whisper across time. You keep moving. The tunnel bends, turns once, then again. Each turn feels symbolic, like a spiral staircase laid flat. The Maya built their spiritual geography with meaning. Each directional shift had significance: east for beginnings, west for endings, north for ancestors, south for growth. This crawl, it's taking you inward, not just geographically, psychologically. And that's when it happens. The echo returns, a whisper behind you. You stop, hold your breath. A hand touches your heel. You flinch, twist. But there's no one there. The tunnel behind is empty, but the sound continues. A low murmur. You crawl faster now, the passage widening again. You enter a chamber the size of a small room. Your hands press into a shallow basin carved into the floor. The walls curve in tightly, giving the space a vaguely egg-like shape. In the centre, another altar, but this one is cracked, split down the middle as if struck by lightning. Beside it, feathers, dozens of them, arranged in a spiral, black and iridescent. Quetzal, you think, or jaguar. You touch one, it crumbles into dust. But the others remain. A carving on the wall shows a figure crouching like you, reaching for a feather, while another figure identical watches from a small window carved in the stone above. You look up. There is no window, but you feel watched anyway. The ceiling flickers faintly bioluminescent paint again. Shapes, glyphs, stars, and then something new dripping. Not water, not regular dripping. It comes in threes, like heartbeat. Drop, drop, drop. You look down. A small depression in the stone now holds a pool that wasn't there seconds ago. It glistens, reflects your face, except the eyes in the reflection blink before you do. Historians have long argued about the purpose of these inner temple tunnels. Some claim they were part of initiation rituals meant to simulate death and rebirth. Others believe they were theatrical spaces for priests to conduct rituals with dramatic effect. And then there are those who insist they were for personal transformation journeys inward, through darkness, to something essential. You lean back from the pool. The reflection remains, staring at you, smiling, just a little. The reflection holds your gaze with unnerving steadiness. It doesn't shimmer like a pool should. It doesn't waver. It's like the stone itself decided to hold a mirror. Your own eyes blink once, slow, deliberate, and only then does the reflection follow, with a delay just long enough to count. You lean away, heartbeat stuttering in that quiet, subterranean panic your body tries not to show. The feather dust still clings to your fingertips, gritty, ancient. You brush it off on your thigh and rise to your knees. The air feels thinner here, not from lack of oxygen, but from density. It's thick with presence, like you're sharing the room with someone or something no longer interested in being polite about it. Behind the altar, a narrow hallway opens again, but before you can crawl forward, a sound echoes through the tunnel behind you. Your voice, muffled, half-formed, calling your name, but you didn't say anything. You freeze, then crawl forward faster than you mean to. The new passage tilts upward slightly. You hadn't realized how far down you'd gone until the slope reverses. Your palms slip a little as the stone slickens with condensation. Your breathing, no longer absorbed by the tunnel, now bounces back at you in short, panicked gasps. And then, abruptly, the walls widen again. You emerge into a chamber flooded with heat. It wraps around you, instantly wet, stifling and intimate, like walking into a sweat lodge already mid-ceremony. The walls here glisten, not with paint, not with carvings, but with moisture. Steam curls in lazy tendrils from vents in the floor, as if the temple has exhaled just for you. You wipe your brow. The centre of the room is dominated by a stone bench low, wide, and flanked by two tall, rectangular slabs carved with jaguar motifs. Above it, the ceiling forms a low dome lined with obsidian mirrors. You see yourself reflected again, but only partially, like the mirrors are choosing what parts of you to show. This, you realise, is a purification chamber, a rebirthing sauna. The Maya called it temazcal, a steam bath used for healing, cleansing, and spiritual rebirth. These weren't just physical detoxes. They were symbolic deaths. You entered the womb of stone, sweat your old self out, and emerged new. If you emerged at all, you sit on the bench because the room offers no other choice. The stone is warm beneath you, not uncomfortably so, but alive with retained heat. A small bowl rests near your foot, filled with smooth stones and dried leaves. Copal, again. The scent rises thick and sweet. A low hum begins. You didn't make it. It doesn't come from a visible source. It vibrates in the walls. You try to identify the pitch somewhere between a throat chant and the rumble of distant thunder, but it doesn't stop. It changes, adapts, matches your breathing, then your heartbeat, and then, you swear, it matches your thoughts. Each flicker of fear, each moment of recall, each memory surfaces and echoes into the hum, as if the temple is reading you. You try to control your mind. Think of a grocery list. The word banana echoes back in the chant warped and ceremonial. You can't help but laugh. Soft, nervous, but real. And that's when the mist thickens. Shapes emerge within it. Small at first, then larger. Figures cloaked, curved, made of steam and suggestion. One kneels before you, reaches toward your chest, not to touch, but to remove something. Your chest tightens. You feel it, not pain. Release. Something inside loosens, shifts, slips out and into the mist. Your breath changes. slows, deepens. The heat no longer overwhelms you. It holds you. You realize the figure is gone. So is the bowl of herbs. Only the bench remains, and you sitting, sweating, eyes open, mouth slightly parted like you were just born, or unwrapped. Historians still debate the exact purpose of these steam chambers. Some link them to childbirth rituals, others to warfare preparation or agricultural rites. A few argue they were tools for ego death, a way to meet the gods stripped of identity. You feel something like that now, lighter, not better, just less. And when you look down, the floor is dry again. No steam, no bowl, just a feather hole, unburned, resting between your feet. You pick it up and realize it's yours. You'd forgotten that until just now, but it remembers you. The feather is long and dark iridescent, catching light where there shouldn't be any. You turn it gently in your fingers. It flutters once, as though moved by breath, though you aren't exhaling. You feel a warmth at your temples, like memory trying to re-enter the room. You rise slowly from the bench. The stone sighs beneath you, not a sound, exactly, but a release of pressure. The mist thins as you walk forward, and the chamber narrows again into another passage. But this one feels different. The floor beneath your feet turns cool again, almost cold. The warmth of the sweat lodge is gone, absorbed back into the walls like it never happened. And ahead, just a few steps away, you see something strange. Light, faint, flickering, but definitely firelight. You move toward it. The hallway opens into a chamber unlike any so far. It's wider, taller, and aligned in a near-perfect circle. The floor is sunken slightly, and in the centre sits a raised stone platform ringed with shallow bowls. Each bowl contains a flame, not bright, not strong, but steady, and none of them cast shadows. You realize why a moment later. There are no shadows in this room, not behind the bowls, not behind you. You raise your hand slowly. Nothing. You're lit but not shadowed. The Maya believed in spiritual symmetry. Xibalba, their underworld, wasn't always a place of torment. It was a passage, a test, a process. Darkness didn't mean evil. It meant transition. You step into the center of the chamber. There's an altar here, lower than the others, a flat surface etched with concentric rings and tiny glyphs too many to read, too closely packed to follow. In the middle, a shallow hole, not large, not deep, but round, almost inviting, a place to place something. You glance at the feather, it flutters again, you hesitate, then gently lower it into the hollow. The flames in the bowls pulse, not brighter but inward, like they're inhaling. The air thickens again, but this time it's charged electric. You feel your hair rise slightly, your fingertips tingle. Then a sound, low at first. Wind through reeds. No, music. Bone flutes. Dozens of them. The sound is breathy, high-pitched, but perfectly in tune. You spin slowly, looking for the source, but the room is empty and still. The flutes play. Maya ceremonies often used bone instruments carved from human or animal remains, intricately designed, tuned to carry long distances. Some believe the specific notes produced by these flutes were meant to summon spirits or send messages across dimensions. The melody isn't chaotic, it's structured, a rising phrase, then a pause, then the same phrase, backward, over and over. You kneel by the altar again, watching the feather slowly spin in the hollow. It shouldn't spin. There's no wind. And yet it turns, faster, then slower, then stops. And when it does, the music stops with it. The silence is so abrupt it takes your ears a moment to catch up. Then, a voice, not in your ear, in your bones, low, measured. You're almost ready. You whip around. No one. Of course not. But the bowls are empty now. The flame's gone, and something has changed. The stone behind you is warm again. You turn. A new opening has appeared, just wide enough to step through. Not crawl, not kneel, but walk. You pause. Historians still debate whether Maya rituals involved theatrical illusions, moving walls, hidden chambers, sound tricks. But they rarely account for what participants felt. The internal shift, the sense of being rearranged by symbols. Some claim its suggestibility, others divine choreography. You step through the doorway, it seals behind you. No sound, just finality. You're in another tunnel now. This one straight, even, lined with carvings of animals, snakes, jaguars, toads, bats, all sacred in Maya cosmology, all tied to transformation. But here, they move as you pass, not physically, just enough to suggest they could. A snake's tongue flicks from its mouth. A jaguar's paw reaches slightly farther into the aisle. A bat's wings fold slowly around a glyph. You keep walking, and at the end of the tunnel a faint light, not fire, not magic, just sunlight, but it's coming from below. You descend and emerge into a room shaped like a perfect square. In the centre, a slab. On the slab a mask. Green, stone, jade. Your own face, carved in miniature, waiting. The jade gleams with that cool, wet depth only ancient stone can carry, polished smooth, veined with delicate marbling, and shaped unmistakably in your likeness. It isn't a vague suggestion. It's you, not idealized, not abstracted. Your features, just slightly stylized in the Maya tradition, cheekbones a little sharper, the mouth more serene. You step toward the slab. It's low to the ground, almost level with your knees. Around it, 4 pillars rise slender and undecorated, arranged at cardinal points, north, south, east, west. The moment you enter their square, the air changes. Thicker, but not humid. Sacred. You reach for the mask. It's heavier than you expect. Not crushing, but definite. The kind of weight that says, this isn't a trinket. As you lift it, you feel something shift behind your eyes, like your name slid a little sideways. The mask is lined with soft, worn leather. On the inside, small holes trace the jawline air vents, or something else you don't put it on. Not yet. Instead, you turn it over, inspecting it in the dim half-light that filters down from slits in the ceiling above. The roof here has no torch brackets, no fire bowls, just a series of angled cuts that funnel light into narrow stripes, casting geometric patterns across the floor like a solar puzzle. You take a step back, holding the mask. Your foot lands in a groove. The stone gives slightly under your weight, a click. You freeze, and the room begins to shift, slowly, silently. The 4 pillars sink into the ground, the slab lowers, and the square of stone you're standing on begins to rotate clockwise 1 degree at a time. The light slashes across the room begin to move, matching the spin. Patterns shift. Glyphs carved along the wall flicker in and out of view, some only visible when the light hits them directly. You read as they pass. To wear the face is to speak the truth. To become is to forget, to be reborn. die well. You grip the mask tighter, and finally, you understand. You're meant to wear it, not for ceremony, for navigation. The Maya believed masks connected the wearer to gods, ancestors, and mythic selves. They weren't costumes, they were tools. To see with another's eyes, to move through thresholds where identity no longer worked. You take a breath and lift the mask to your face. It fits. Of course it does. It seals over you not tightly, not restrictively, but with intimacy. Like slipping into a version of yourself you hadn't met until now. The world narrows, the light fades, and then the room changes again. But this time, you change with it. You don't see through your eyes anymore. You see through memory. You watch the walls shift, not in real time, but in timelessness. Glyphs animate. The slab becomes a living altar. You see priests in white robes. A figure kneels where you stood. A fire burns in the centre of the square. Dancers spin. A conch shell blows, impossibly loud, and the roof above you opens. But you're not watching a recording. You're inhabiting it. The mask lets you exist in more than one time at once. You kneel. You rise. You sing in a language you don't recognize, but somehow understand. You're at your own ritual, a spectator, a participant, a witness. Then the scene blurs, melts, fades. You remove the mask. You're back in the square room, alone again, but the mask glows faintly in your hand. Just for a moment, you place it back on the slab, and now it doesn't resemble you. The face is older, tired, but smiling. Scholars continue to debate the role of masks in Maya ceremonies. Funerary, divinatory, decorative, but the stories, the ones rarely translated, hint at something stranger. Masks that remembered their wearers, that grew wiser with each face they covered. You step out of the square, the pillars don't rise again, the slab stays sunk, but a new opening appears, low, dark, beckoning. You crouch and crawl. Because of course you do. Because you've already seen where this leads, even if you're only just getting there. You crawl into the dark, mask still warm in your hands, though the chamber behind you has cooled. The tunnel curves tightly, stone pressing in from all sides, making you feel less like a person exploring, and more like something being digested. The air here is heavier, touched with that deep mineral scent of old water and older promises. Your fingertips trace the floor ahead as you move. It's smooth, carved into shallow furrows like a path meant to be followed. Every now and then, your palm slips into a small depression, intentional, bowl-shaped. They could have been for offerings, or footprints, or simply to remind you that every movement here has been made before. You round a bend, and suddenly the air thins. It's subtle just enough that you pause, breathe deeper, and you realize it smells like rain. But you're deep underground. You press forward. The tunnel empties into a chamber with walls so dark they appear wet. You blink and realize the darkness is not just absence, it's paint, or more accurately, soot. The walls are coated in black pigment, charred, maybe from ancient fires, or maybe from something less literal. As your eyes adjust, you notice shapes scratched through the soot, hundreds of them. Figures in motion, spirals, stars, glyphs that loop in on themselves like a sentence that never finishes. One set of markings catches your eye, a series of faces, each subtly morphing into the next. The first is broad-nosed and strong-jawed, Maya in style. The second looks more like you. The third is stranger, part jaguar, part musk, part memory. And then you hear it, your own voice, laughing, low, muted, from behind you. You spin, nothing, but the sound still echoes. You realize the room is echoing, but not in a normal way. When you breathe, the breath comes back as someone else's sigh. When you shift your weight, the sound returns as footsteps, not yours. Someone is here, but only as an echo. The Maya believed caves were entrances to Xibalba, the underworld, but not hell, not punishment. A liminal space, a place of tests. It said that some caves spoke to those who listened, whispering truths or reflections depending on the season, the ceremony, or the courage of the listener. You try saying something, just a word, your name. The echo returns immediately, but it answers with a different name, not one you recognize, and yet it feels like yours. You kneel in the center of the soot-blackened floor, a shallow pool, circular, still, not quite water, something denser, thicker, but reflective. You lean over it. There's your face, but not your expression. It looks determined, confident, slightly amused, like someone who knows what's about to happen. You reach down. The moment your fingertip touches the surface, the reflection inhales. You fall forward. Not physically, your body stays still, but your mind tumbles. Through colour, sound, through memory. Suddenly, you're standing at the edge of a maze field. Smoke rises behind you. A conch shell sounds. You're wearing robes. You're chanting. Others chant with you. A jaguar prowls the edge of the clearing. You turn and you're back in the soot room. On your knees. The pool is gone. Just bare stone now. But your palms are black with soot, and something's been pressed into them. You uncurl your fingers. Seeds. 4 of them. Tiny. Black. Glossy. Maze. You stare at them, unsure where they came from, and then something shifts in the wall ahead. A line of glyphs glows briefly, then fades, except one. It flickers. You crawl forward, touch the stone. It opens. A breath of warm air spills into the chamber scented with earth and blood orange and something like burnt honey. You pass through, and the door closes behind you. You're standing on a high ledge, overlooking an enormous vertical shaft, lined with carvings. At the bottom, far below light, not firelight, starlight, but from beneath. You press your hands against the carved stone, staring down the shaft. It yawns deep into the earth, impossibly deep so far that the air above it pulses with vertical stillness. Not a breeze, but a quiet suction, like the shaft is breathing in. The light at the bottom twinkles faintly, not with the flicker of flame, but with a patient gleam of stars from below. The shaft is not perfectly circular, it spirals just slightly. You wouldn't notice if not for the way the carvings bend as they descend, forming a helix of story and symbol. Ceiba roots, again. Snake coils, eyes, more eyes. Always the eyes. Your knees go soft just looking at it, but the ledge you stand on doesn't waver. It was made to hold someone like you who would one day peer into this dark and wonder. Is the only way forward? Down. And of course it is. You spot them then small, flat footholds carved into the wall, just out of reach unless you lean over the edge. They descend in a gentle curve, forming a path, not stairs, not even a ladder, a gesture of descent. You pocket the seeds. You tuck the mask under your arm, and you begin the climb down. The first few footholds are easy. The stone still holds warmth, as if someone else just passed through. Your fingers grip naturally. The walls aren't smooth, they're textured, designed for traction. The Maya knew this route would be walked, not once, not ceremonially, but again and again. The descent sharpens your senses. The deeper you go, the more the carvings come alive. Not literally, not quite. But something about the play of starlight from below catches on their edges, creating illusions. A jaguar snarls between two coils of serpent. A figure with an obsidian blade lifts something toward a sky filled with maize. Your foot slips once, and a gust of warm air pushes gently against your back as if something unseen catches you. Not to help, just to remind you that it's watching. You continue downward. At one point, a bat glyph stares out from the wall, its wings outstretched across the width of the shaft. Just below it, a niche. You pause. Inside the niche is a bowl. Simple, clay, unpainted. You lift it. Beneath the bowl, a spiral carved into the stone. Inside the spiral, a glyph you recognize. One from the soot chamber. Return. You don't understand what you're meant to return. So you place the bowl in your lap and sit, just for a moment. And the wall beside you warms. You press your hand to the glyph. The stone gives slightly, and you hear your voice again. But this time, it says something different. You've been here before. You close your eyes, and you feel it. This spiral, this descent, this moment. In another body, in another lifetime. Maybe. But you know the next step. You rise, leave the bowl in the niche, descend further. At last, you reach the bottom. It's not a floor. Exactly. More like a ledge that spills out onto a natural cave. The stone beneath your feet here is different. Not carved, not shaped, just worn smooth by passage. The ceiling opens into a dome above, and from it, the stars shine upward. No sky, no moon, just stars. From below, the Maya believed in the layers of the world, 13 heavens above, 9 layers of Xibalba below. But even in their underworld, stars existed. Sacred stars, spirit stars, lights that guided the soul through its darkest trials. You kneel. The stone is warm. In the center of the chamber, a circle of obsidian slabs forms a ring, maybe an altar, maybe a portal. You crawl to its center and place the seeds. All 4, they rest on the stone, perfectly still, until one begins to spin, then another, then they all spin, softly, slowly, until they stop. And in their place, maize, full-grown, bright green, impossible. But there, you blink, the maize vanishes, the seeds remain. Historians have argued endlessly over the function of these deep shafts beneath Maya temples. Some claim they were ritual wells, others symbolic umbilici connections to the womb of the earth. A few believe they were stages for underworld plays, reenactments of the hero twins descending into Xibalba, but none of them mention the stars, and now you feel them, above, below, inside. It doesn't matter. You rise, and the wall ahead opens. One last door. It leads not upward, but inward. The doorway ahead doesn't announce itself. No sound, no light. It just becomes open. A new path that wasn't there seconds ago, like the temple itself was waiting to decide whether to let you continue. You pass through without hesitation, even though every part of your body is quietly suggesting you don't. You step into a chamber carved like a heart, not metaphorically a literal heart. Rounded walls, deep grooves, ribbed ridges that curve overhead like a protective cage. The entire room pulses subtly, like it's alive, or remembering how to be. And at the centre of it all a throne, not gold, not grand, stone, plain, but the floor before it is worn smooth. Dozens, maybe hundreds, of feet have stood there, or knelt, or offered. You pause at the threshold, something instinctual stopping you. You wait, and in that waiting, you hear something. It starts as a rustle, then a whisper, then a voice, not a word, not a language, but a tone. You feel it vibrate in your sternum. It says, sit. You don't remember deciding to walk forward, but now your hand is on the side of the throne. The stone is warm again, always warm, never hot, just alive. You sit, and something shifts. The walls ripple once very slightly, and from the ridges above, light begins to shine, a faint reddish glow, as though filtered through blood and memory. The Maya viewed the heart as the centre of transformation, not just physical, but cosmic. Some temples are aligned to mirror the human body head, heart, limbs echoing their cosmology onto their architecture. This room, you're sitting in the heart of the temple. And now, the temple knows it. The walls begin to whisper, not loudly, not insistently, but in overlapping layers, like leaves, like ancestors. You can't make out the words, but the meaning presses into you like heat. Images flicker across the room, projected not by flame or mirror, but by memory. You see a child walking backward through a field of maize, blindfolded. A jaguar shedding its skin like a snake. A mask being carved with hands that look like yours. A person, maybe you descending these same steps in a different body, centuries ago. The voice returns. You are the offering, not you have been, not you will be. You are. The throne beneath you begins to pulse, a soft rhythm, like a second heartbeat beneath your own, and then a compartment opens beside the seat, inside a knife, obsidian, perfectly chipped. You flinch, but you do not reach for it, because you don't need to. You remember what it's for, and this isn't that kind of story. Instead, you reach into your pouch and withdraw the seeds, still 4, still glossy, still inexplicably warm. You place them in the compartment. The knife vanishes, the seeds remain, the pulsing stops, the light fades, and in the silence that follows, you feel something slip away from you. Not a memory, not a word, something quieter, something older, a belief. It's gone now, and you are lighter for it. The walls begin to shift. The ribbed ceiling opens upward like petals, and for the first time in what feels like days, you see the sky. Not jungle sky, not temple roof, sky, bright, soft, unmoving, streaked with colours you can't name but feel. You rise from the throne, and the walls seal behind you. No tunnel, no crawl space, just a gentle slope of stone ahead, flanked by 2 statues, one of a jaguar mid-pounce, the other of a woman holding maize. You walk between them and find yourself in a long corridor, open to the air. On either side, walls lined with carvings of people wearing masks, hundreds of them, each unique, each serene, each carved with precision. As you walk, you find your own, etched into the stone, mid-stride, eyes closed, smiling. You pause, then place your hand over the carving. It's warm. Of course it is. You walk on. The corridor narrows as you walk, the sky above framed by stone edges that grow closer, like two hands about to clasp. Vines drape lazily from the lip of the walls, and the scent of damp greenery returns your old companion from the jungle's edge. When this all began, you pause beneath an arch where birds are carved into the stone parrots, eagles, quetzals mid-flight, their wings extended toward the heavens. Their eyes are inlaid with tiny jade stones that catch the light like dewdrops. A breeze stirs, cool, unexpected, and layered within it. A sound you haven't heard in hours, the outside world, a cicada, a monkey, the crack of a branch underfoot. You're close now. You can feel it. The corridor leads into another chamber, but this one is strange. Round like the others, but open to the sky entirely. A circle of stone pillars marks the perimeter, and in the centre a mirrored pool. Its surface is perfectly still, not a ripple in sight, as if it has never known disturbance. You walk to the edge and kneel. This time, the reflection stares back properly. It's your face, your current face. But calmer, not wise, exactly, just known. There's no flicker of mischief, no echo that blinks before you do, just you, and then the ripples begin, not from you, but from something beneath. A single bubble rises, pops, and then a voice not in your ear, not in your bones, but in the air itself. You've come far enough to choose. The water ripples again, and now the pool changes. Your reflection vanishes. In its place, two images. On the left, a path, forested, familiar, the world as you left it. On the right, darkness, swirling shapes, flickers of stars, roots, teeth, music, and memory. You don't need to be told what these are. You already know. The choice isn't physical. It's not stay or go. It's remember or forget. The temple doesn't demand one or the other. It simply offers the decision. You stare into the pool, and a glyph begins to surface from beneath, rising like a turtle from the depths. You recognize it from earlier, from the soot chamber, from the shaft wall. Return, not as a warning, as an invitation. You sit, cross-legged, hands resting on your knees, and wait. You think of everything you've seen, the laughter that wasn't yours, the face in the stone, the mirrored self in the mask, the seeds in your palm, the bone flutes, the voice that said you've been here before. Scholars say that Maya temples were cosmic replicas, places where heaven, earth, and the underworld aligned. Portals, not monuments. They weren't made to house the gods. They were made to remind you of them, or maybe to remind the gods of you. You close your eyes. The choice doesn't need to be made aloud. And yet, you whisper, I'll carry it. The pool ripples once, then calms. The mirrored surface now shows only sky. No images, no faces, just light. You rise, and behind you, the corridor begins to dissolve. Stone softens into vine. The pillars crack like eggshells. Time resumes. The temple exhales, and you step forward, out of the circle, into a garden you do not recognize. It blooms wildly, flowers you've never seen, trees with fruit that glows faintly. A path appears beneath your feet, but this one is soft, moss-lined, and made for walking slowly. You look down. There's something in your palm again. The seeds. No. One seed, and a sliver of green jade. Cool as ever. You stand quietly in the garden, unsure whether you've stepped into the future or the past that kept forgetting itself. The sky above is dimming into a purplish dusk, but it isn't the same sky that hung over the jungle when you arrived. This one feels higher, lighter, as though whatever weight pressed down from the heavens has finally lifted. In your palm, the seed is smooth and glossy, obsidian black. The jade sliver rests beside it, shaped like a crescent. You close your fingers around them, and the warmth they give off pulses not heat, exactly, but awareness. The path in front of you curves gently, flanked by flowers that shift their colour as you pass. Pink to gold, gold to indigo. Some release a sweet fragrance that feels like breath from a forgotten dream. Others seem to lean toward you slightly, just to say we remember. You walk slowly. Soft moss gives under your feet. It feels like the earth is cushioning you, as though the temple has decided you've earned softness now. Then, ahead, you see another figure, standing still at a stone basin. You hesitate, but something in you already knows it's you, or rather it's someone wearing your shape. They stand tall, unhurried, their hands resting gently on the edge of the basin. You can't see their face clearly. It glimmers and distorts, as though made of reflection, not skin. They don't speak, but you hear them all the same, or you'll ask again. You approach. The basin holds water, still and deep. You look in, expecting another reflection, a riddle, perhaps another whisper from the bones of the temple. Instead, you see a tree, a ceiba, young, fragile, just a sapling. Then the water shifts. The tree grows taller, stronger. Branches stretch wide, then further. Then it flowers once, in a burst of colour so sudden it makes you blink. Then it withers, dries, falls, becomes roots, and from its base you, emerging again, blinking into a new chamber, beginning the whole thing again. The figure beside you finally turns their head, and now you see it clearly. They are older than you, but they are you, not metaphorically, not symbolically. You, same scar on the thumb, same quirk of the eyebrow, same spiral of a thought turning just behind the eyes. They speak aloud now, but their voice feels like it's coming from inside your own lungs. You keep coming back. You whisper, why they smile, just a little, to remember what you keep choosing to forget. You look into the basin again. The water is still. No tree, no reflection. Just the seed in your hand. You hold it out. They shake their head. This one's yours. Then they walk away. Into the garden. Into the dusk. And vanish. The Maya had stories about travellers' souls who walk the spiral again and again, sometimes forgetting, sometimes returning with just enough memory to plant a seed. These weren't gods. These were helpers, carriers of breath, of echo, of name. You tuck the seed into your pouch and continue on. The moss begins to thin. Stone returns beneath your feet. Not temple stone, path stone. Worn by weather, not ceremony. You're nearing the edge. The jungle begins to reappear, but it's not the jungle you remember. It's newer, greener, brighter. Even the howler monkeys are quiet, respectful, almost. Ahead, you see an opening, not a doorway, not a seam in stone, just trees and sunlight. You step through, and you're back in the clearing where it all began, except it's dawn now, and your footprints from before are gone. The stone steps of the Temple of Rebirth loom behind you, but they're still, silent, watching. The vines haven't moved. The birds chirp as if nothing extraordinary has happened, and maybe, to them, nothing has. You glance back once. The entrance you passed through is gone. Just flat stone now. solid, as if the temple has sealed itself again, waiting for another version of you or someone else entirely. You walk forward into morning, into memory, with a seed in your pouch and dust on your skin. The light of morning wraps gently around your shoulders like a blanket recently unfolded, soft, diffuse, and just warm enough to make you feel like someone's looking after you. You take a few tentative steps through the clearing, half expecting the jungle to lurch back into ceremonial chaos, a whisper from the trees, a flare of bone flute song, a sudden voice in your ear saying not yet, but nothing happens. Just bird song and the rustle of leaves. You are out, and yet you don't feel done, not empty either, just full of something unspoken. You glance back again. Still no trace of the doorway you passed through, nor the corridor, nor the carved walls pulsing like a heart. The Temple of Rebirth now looks like any overgrown ruin, moss on stone, vines spilling over fractured steps, sunlight trickling down like it's just another day in the tropics. You exhale and realize something new. You're not breathing the same way. It's quieter, deeper, like your ribs have grown taller inside you. Your hand drifts instinctively to the pouch. The seed presses against your fingers, smooth, still warm, still watching. You start down the narrow trail you came in on, or what you think is the same trail. It winds a bit differently. The trees lean in unfamiliar directions. At one point, the roots form a perfect spiral where before they were a tangle, but the path carries you, so you follow. Eventually, the temple disappears behind the canopy. The heat rises. The insects return. Real ones. This time buzzing and darting like tiny messengers who've been on break since dusk. And then you see it. A small stone shrine. Nothing dramatic. Just a waist-high altar covered in moss. Sitting atop it an old clay bowl. Cracked. Empty. You approach slowly. Carved into the front edge a glyph. It reads, "Return what grew." You hesitate. Reach into the pouch. Your fingers close around the jade sliver. Then the seed. You place them both in the bowl. The bowl does nothing. No flash. No hum. No mysterious blooming flower that releases a mist and a memory. But the moment your hand leaves the rim, you feel something change in the air, in the earth, in you. Something lets go. You sit on the earth, back against a warm stone. Let the birds talk among themselves. Let the leaves whisper all the secrets you didn't ask to keep. Historians rarely speak of what happens after the ceremony. Their records focus on architecture, burial goods, ceramic fragments. But the stories, when told properly, suggest that no one left a temple like this quite the same. They'd forget pieces of themselves, or find pieces they'd lost, sometimes both. A breeze lifts your hair. For a moment, it carries the scent of copal. Then it's gone. You rise. There's a clearing ahead, and beyond that, a footpath. Faint tire tracks, a familiar sign in Spanish and English site closed. Dangerous structure, no access. You smile, because of course it's closed, because you weren't supposed to be here. Not in that way. You follow the path. It bends once, twice, and brings you to a dirt road, and then a sound, a vehicle, distant, approaching. You could flag it down, you could return, or you step off the path, into the trees, not to escape, just to walk for a little longer, just to listen. Because the jungle hums differently now, not louder, just tuned to something you now recognize. something you've carried with you, or maybe planted. You brush your hand along a low-hanging branch, feel the bark, feel the heartbeat in the leaves, and in the quiet, you hear a voice again, not from outside, not from the temple, from within. It says, when the next question comes, say yes. You keep walking. Light filters through the canopy. The world turns. The path, for now, is yours. The trail tapers off beneath your feet until it becomes suggestion more than path, just soft ground and scattered leaves, interrupted here and there by the careful placement of stone. You notice now, with clearer eyes, that the jungle has been guiding you all along, not with signs, with patterns. 3 trees bent at the same angle form an arch. A circle of fungi rings the base of a ceiba sapling, newly sprouted. A hummingbird flits past you, doubling back to hover just in front of your face, and then it's gone. You smile without knowing why. There is no urgency to your pace anymore. The temple's silence has followed you out into the open world, not like a weight, but like a song you can hum under your breath without anyone noticing. You pause when you reach a large boulder half swallowed by moss. It's smooth on one side, too smooth. You brush away the moss, and there it is, a glyph, worn nearly invisible by rain and time, but you recognize it, the spiral, same as the soot chamber, same as the shaft wall, same as your own palm, now marked with lines that echo it. The jungle is older than the stories carved in stone. It remembers without language, without maps. The Maya didn't just build within nature, they wove with it. Their temples weren't separate from the earth. They were bones of the land itself, called forth, arranged, and sung into being. You sit by the boulder. The glyph faces east, toward the rising sun. You wonder how many others sat here before you, how many laid their palms to the spiral, how many left with more questions than answers and still felt fulfilled. You press your hand against it and feel nothing dramatic, just warmth and a quiet recognition. You are expected. You rise again and walk deeper into the trees until the green closes gently around you. This part of the jungle feels younger, less burdened, as if the weight of sacred memory has shifted elsewhere. And then you hear something ahead, drums, faint, distant, but real. You follow. You emerge into another clearing, not wide, not prepared, just ready. In the center, a small platform of stacked stone, barely a meter high. Vines coil around it like lazy serpents. Upon it, a collection of small items laid out with care, a cracked conch shell, a bundle of dyed threads knotted at the ends, a jade bead, a single black feather. It looks like an altar, or a message, or maybe both. You kneel beside it. There's a space open in the middle, an absence, as if waiting. You reach into your pocket, and without thinking, place your thumbprint in the bare patch of dirt at its center. It holds your print perfectly, and you realize this isn't an altar, it's a ledger, a quiet way to say I was here too. You don't take anything. You leave the thumbprint. The feather stirs in the breeze as you stand. The drums fade, but your heartbeat replaces them. The same slow rhythm that's been building ever since you descended those first stairs. You follow it, down the path that isn't a path, between trees that aren't just trees, and suddenly you're near water, a wide, glassy pool, clear to the bottom, the kind of place no map marks, but every soul knows when it sees it. You kneel, touch the surface, cool, steady. And beneath the reflection, barely visible, you see a shape, A figure, not threatening, not divine, just watching. Then it nods, just once, and fades. You drink from the pool, it tastes like stone and leaf and something sweet you can't name, and you laugh, because you're not lost. You never were. You were just returning. You lie back beside the pool and let the light dapple your face through a cathedral of leaves. No sounds now but the slow drip of condensation off a branch, the occasional snap of a twig in the underbrush, and your own breath, long, even softer than it was before the temple. The sky above is pale blue, streaked with the wisps of clouds already surrendering to midday heat. But time doesn't hold the same shape it did before. Minutes feel like hours, or maybe seconds. The jungle's clock runs in spirals, not ticks. You close your eyes, and the temple pulses behind them, not with images, with sensations. The heat of the sweat lodge, the tight, slow crawl through the tunnel of roots, the echo that wasn't yours. The laughter behind your reflection, all of it still there, all of it settled now. You sit up slowly and reach into your pouch. There's nothing left in it, but that's not true. You pull out a small stone, not jade, not obsidian, just stone, rounded, smooth, etched with a spiral no bigger than your fingertip. You don't remember placing it there, but it fits your hand perfectly. You turn it over once, then twice, and place it gently at the edge of the pool. It's not an offering, it's an acknowledgement that this happened, that you remember, even if you don't need to say it out loud. The Maya didn't mark their holy places with signs or fences. They mark them with memory, with paths only visible to those walking with the right kind of attention. And that's you now. You walk differently. Not faster, not slower, just aware. And as you rise and continue on, you begin to notice them the others. Not clearly, just flickers. A shadow standing between two trees before vanishing. A barefoot trail pressed fresh into the mud before you. A whisper that feels like it passed through your own mouth, even though you didn't speak. They've walked this path too, or are walking it now, or will, and you are part of it. You step over a tree root that looks suspiciously like a coiled serpent and continue down the trail. Eventually, you hear the rustle of fabric, the sharp crack of a machete slicing through underbrush. Voices, real ones, tourists, maybe, researchers, people with clipboards and cargo pants and sunscreen that smells like regret. You smile. You don't approach. You don't retreat. You simply pass. One of them turns and nods politely, like they've seen you somewhere before but can't quite place it. You nod back and walk on. The jungle thins ahead. You see daylight in great sheets now, not just narrow shafts. A bird screeches overhead, and for a moment you think it might fly backward again, but it doesn't. You smile again, because it could, if it wanted to. You break through the tree line and find yourself back on the wide dirt path that rings the perimeter of the site. There's a rickety wooden sign with a crude painting of a jaguar on it. Below a red arrow pointing back toward the parking area. You follow it. A man in a straw hat is selling tamarind candy and water bottles from a cooler. He nods at you. Hot today, he says. You nod back, a little. He squints. You go up to the temple. You consider lion. Then you consider telling the truth. Then you say, not all the way. He shrugs. Hey, it's closed off anyway. You smile. Take a candy. Drop a few coins into the rusted tin can beside his cooler, and walk on. A van waits at the edge of the lot. The driver doesn't look up. but he unlocks the door as you approach. You slide into the back seat, windows down, the breeze brushing your cheek like a familiar hand. As the engine starts, you glance back through the window. The jungle waves, just slightly, and the temple unseen waits, not for you, but for the next version of the question. The van rumbles to life with a gentle shudder, and you let your head rest against the window. Dust curls up from the tires as the driver steers the vehicle down the winding road, back toward the world you left behind. But the jungle doesn't disappear behind you, it simply recedes, pulling its mysteries back beneath the canopy, like a breath being held. You watch the trees blur past. They look ordinary now, green, dense, alive, but not demanding, not whispering, just there. The sun warms the side of your face as you ride, and somewhere along the way, you stop trying to recall the exact path you took. Not because you've forgotten, because it doesn't matter. The temple doesn't ask to be mapped. It only asks to be remembered in motion. The driver hums softly, a tune you don't recognize but somehow feel you've heard before, maybe echoing off stone, or layered beneath the bone flute harmony deep inside the heart of the temple. You close your eyes, not to sleep, to sink, and in that gentle darkness, you return, not with fear, not with confusion, but with a strange, tender clarity. You're back in the corridor of spirals, the mask is in your hands again, the pool ripples, and then you're walking backward through the maze field. But this time, you're not blindfolded. You're smiling in the waking world. The van pulls onto a paved road. Civilization begins to reappear in small, apologetic gestures. Telephone poles, concrete walls, distant radio static. You pass a convenience store with a flickering sign, a vendor selling fried plantains from a folding table, and a mural of a jaguar painted in neon orange on the side of a cinder block house. And just as you turn your head, you spot it, a spiral, drawn in chalk on the sidewalk. No one else reacts. You lean forward. Can we stop here for a second? The driver glances in the rear view. We just got going. You smile. Just a second. He shrugs and pulls over. You step out and crouch beside the chalk spiral. It's fading, smudged by feet and rain. But it's still there. A child's drawing, maybe, or something else. You press your finger into the center. It leaves a smudge, but nothing disappears. The spiral stays. You stand and notice a doorway behind you. Plain wood, cracked paint, a handprint in the middle. You raise your own hand, not quite touching it, not knocking, just acknowledging. Then step back onto the road. Thanks, you say, sliding back into the van. The driver nods, says nothing, and the van pulls away. The road unwinds in front of you, and the spiral, for now, tucks itself back into the folds of the earth. Scholars rarely account for what happens after the descent. They write about chamber shapes and calendar alignments and astronomical theories. They count steps. They map acoustics. But few of them speak of the after, the walk back, the seed in the pocket, the moment when the jungle stops testing you and just listens. You pull out the empty pouch, run your thumb along the stitch spiral on its flap. It's fraying a bit now, but that makes sense. You're different now, frayed in places, worn, but more real for it. The driver drops you off at a sun-bleached bus station and waves once. You wave back, then walk toward the waiting bench, and notice someone has etched another spiral into the wooden slats, smaller than the last. Different hand, Same rhythm, you sit and wait, because you know the next step will come, the next question, the next door, and when it does, you'll recognize it, because it's always the same spiral, just from a new angle. You sit on the weathered bench, the sun stretching overhead like a lazy cat, warming the top of your head, the backs of your hands, the toes in your dusty shoes. The station is quiet, the kind of quiet that isn't really silent, just filled with sounds people have learned to ignore. The distant hum of a generator, the occasional chirp of a bird pretending to be something more exotic. A plastic bag flutters down the road, pirouettes, then collapses. You run your finger slowly over the spiral carved into the bench beside you. The grooves are fresh, not recent, maybe, but fresh in the way that says someone meant this. Not idle graffiti, not boredom, a reminder. You pull the pouch from your side again, empty, still, but not meaningless. You tug at the stitching just a little. A thread comes loose and spirals into your lap. You smile, because of course it does. In the distance, a rumble, a bus. Not yours, not yet. This one rattles past, covered in bright paint and decades of dust. A hand-painted Jaguar snarls from the back panel. You meet its eyes for just a second. They don't blink. You check the horizon. Another shape approaches, a second bus, slower, quieter, older. It pulls in with a sigh. The door opens with a wheeze that feels rehearsed. The driver doesn't speak, just nods. You climb aboard and take a seat near the back, beside a window smeared by time and 1,000 careless arms. As the bus rolls forward, the scenery changes not quickly, not dramatically, but the jungle thins further. The trees give way to scrubland. Houses reappear. Signs in Spanish advertise cell phones, haircuts, and fruit smoothies. Someone boards with a chicken under their arm. You watch it all pass by, not as distraction, as contrast, because what you just left doesn't belong on a map. You lean your head against the window and close your eyes, not to sleep, just to pause. Inside your chest, the rhythm continues, a spiral turning. A drumbeat that isn't music, but remembrance. And then, something clicks. You see yourself, not in vision, in presence, walking through a different city, weeks from now, turning down a side street, seeing a glyph scratched into a wall in chalk, stopping, pressing your palm to it, smiling. Because this doesn't end. Not really. It echoes, loops, returns. Scholars have argued for years over whether the Maya Temple of Rebirth was a true ceremonial site, or a symbolic journey for the elite, or an elaborate metaphor carved in stone. The theories shift like vines. Some say it's a calendar made physical. Others believe it was a training chamber for shamans. A few call it a test, but none of the books mention what you feel when you emerge. The softness of the air, the change in your walk, the quiet joy of seeing spirals in everyday cracks, the way your reflection seems slightly slower than it used to be, like it's waiting to see what you'll become next. You open your eyes. The bus has stopped. A small village, a dirt road, children chasing a dog. No reason to get off here, except that something in your hand is warm. You look down. It's the seed, the one you left in the bowl, returned, somehow, without ceremony. You close your fingers around it. The door to the bus creaks. You rise, step out. The village doesn't greet you. It doesn't need to. You're not a visitor. You're carrying something. You pass a wall where someone has painted the ceiba tree in blue and green. Its roots stretch wide. Its branches reach stars. At its center, a spiral. You touch it. The wall warms. And from somewhere, maybe the tree, maybe the stone, maybe the sky, you hear a whisper. You're not done yet. You nod and keep walking. You follow the narrow village road, the seed still warm in your hand, as though it has a pulse faint, slow and steady. The houses here are humble, plastered in layers of faded pastel paint and shaded by hanging bougainvillea and crooked roof tiles. A man sits under a tree with a basket of guavas and doesn't look up when you pass. A woman sweeps dust in circles from a doorway that doesn't need sweeping. No one stops you, but a few glance at you like they already know why you're here. You pause at a crossroads. No sign, no landmarks, but there's that feeling again, a pull, like gravity adjusted itself by a single degree. To the left, the road climbs a hill. You take it. Halfway up, a small building appears, one of those structures that looks abandoned until it doesn't. The door stands open. Inside, darkness, cooler air, stone floor, no decoration, save for a single spiral carved into the threshold. You step in, your eyes adjust. The room is round, low ceiling, one bench, and in the centre, a woman. She sits on the floor, legs folded beneath her, weaving something small and simple from thread red, green, black. She doesn't look up, but she says, "It's about time." You stand, uncertain. She gestures without stopping her work. Place it. You look around. In front of her is a shallow clay dish. You step forward, palm open, and let the seed fall into the centre. It lands without a sound, and the moment it does, her fingers pause. She finally looks up. Her face is lined, not ancient, not young. Her eyes are quiet but deep, as if they know several versions of you, not just this one. "You've carried well," she says. Then, "You've walked the spiral." You nod, because what else is there to say? She stands, places the woven thread in your hand. It's not a bracelet, not a necklace, just a loop, a circle. You understand. It's yours now, she says, until it breaks. Then what? She smiles. You'll return, or someone else will. You step back. Let the light guide you out the door. When you emerge, the village is gone, or perhaps it's changed. Ahead is a wide field, golden with afternoon light. Wind ripples through maize stalks just tall enough to whisper secrets you can't quite hear. A path winds through it, narrow and neat. You follow. Halfway through, you stop. A tree grows in the centre of the field. A ceiba, young and thin but defiant, stretching skyward. At its base, a stone, simple, smooth, and carved with one word. Remember. You sit. The wind curls around you. The seed is gone. The thread rests in your palm, still warm. And now, for the first time, you realize you're not the same. Not a different person. Just more of yourself. The temple didn't give you anything. It returned what had always been yours. You look at the thread. It's already beginning to fray. That's okay. It's meant to. You close your eyes. The maze rustles. The tree hums. And the spiral begins again. Soft. Gentle. Endless. The sun leans low in the sky now, casting the field in long, forgiving shadows. The wind stirs again, softer this time, like breath cooling on skin. You sit quietly beneath the young ceiba, the woven loop still resting in your palm. The spiral of your journey no longer spins. It settles, and you feel it. Not triumph, not completion, but stillness, the kind that lives just after transformation. You lay the thread at the base of the stone right over the word remember. It doesn't feel like a goodbye, more like leaving a page in someone else's book, an invitation written in silence. The field does not applaud, the tree does not shimmer, the temple does not call you back, because it no longer needs to. You've carried it with you, in breath, in shadow, in the slow curl of a story retold in a different body, a different voice, a different season. You rise slowly, stretch, exhale. And as you begin walking again through the maze, through the warm gold light, the thoughts begin to recede, not vanish, just loosen, like leaves falling from the shoulder, one by one, until you feel bare again, ordinary again, which is the point. The spiral turns inward so it can turn outward again. When you reach the road, you find a familiar marker, the jaguar mural on the side of a building, half hidden by ivy. A rusted truck passes, a child waves, a dog barks once and then forgets. Everything is as it was, and not at all. You pause beside a wall covered in old graffiti. Your hand lifts before you even think about it. The spiral flows from your fingers like muscle memory, chalkless, inkless, but present. Then you walk away. You don't look back, because a spiral doesn't need watching. It only needs walking. And now, your feet are still. The spiral has turned, not closed. The path beneath you softens into memory, and the breath you didn't know you were holding slips quietly from your lips. The temple sleeps again, but not entirely. Somewhere in a corner of your chest, its rhythm still pulses, slow and gentle, like the beat of a drum you only hear when everything else is quiet. And in this quiet, the jungle leans in, not to whisper, not to test you, just to listen. You've carried the weight. You've left the seed. You've worn the mask and met the reflection that blinked before you. You've returned, as others have, and as others will. So let your breath deepen. Let the journey dissolve from words into sensation. The warmth of stone under your hand, the cool curve of a carved bowl, the sound of water dripping in threes. You're no longer walking. You're no longer watching. You're simply being. And in this soft night, this cradle of quiet, the spiral curls around you one final time, not to lead you anywhere, but to keep you still, safe, centered. So close your eyes. The temple will keep its memory. You've left it better than you found it, and when you wake, you'll still carry a trace of the jungle in your breath, a thread in your pocket, a rhythm in your ribs, and that will be enough. Good night.